day. TinyMoo was a kind of friend who never said no. If someone asked for help, he'd rush in without thinking twice. Carrying lunch boxes, cleaning up messes, sharing his headphones, he did it all with a smile. But sometimes, that smile faded once the others walked away. He didn't know it yet, but always saying yes was slowly draining his joy. One day, everyone seemed to need Moo at once. A friend needed a song recorded, another needed his snack fixed, and someone else just wanted his company. Moo tried to do it all, running from one friend to the next. But his hooves slipped, and he dropped everything. Tears welled up in his eyes. He finally whispered, "I can't do it all." That evening, Moo sat by his favorite tree, headphones off. A gentle voice, his own, finally had space to speak. "Why am I so afraid to say no?" he wondered aloud. He thought of how much he loved his friends, but also how much he missed himself. Was it okay to need space, even from those you love? Moo remembered the first time he said no. It wasn't loud or mean, it was just honest. A friend had asked for his snack again, and Moo simply said, "I need it today." His friend blinked and smiled. Nothing broke. The world didn't end. Moo still had a friend, and he also had his snack. From that day on, Moo practiced saying no. Not to be mean, but to stay kind to himself. No when he was too tired. No when he needed quiet. And with every no, he felt lighter, braver, stronger. Because saying no isn't selfish, it's honest. And Moo was learning that he mattered too. Before learning to say no, Moo once said yes to something that made him really uncomfortable. He gave up his nap time to help build a fort while yawning and wobbling. Everyone else had fun. Moo nearly fell asleep on his hooves. That moment stuck with him, because sometimes saying yes to others meant saying no to himself. One day, Moo said no to a friend who didn't take it well. They frowned, called Moo selfish, and walked away. Moo's heart sank. Doubt crept in. But then another friend came and said, "I saw what happened. I'm proud of you for speaking up." Moo smiled. He was learning not everyone would get it, but the right ones would stay. Moo placed a small sign on his headphones, "Please ask before borrowing." It was simple but big for him. At first, some friends ignored it. Moo had to gently remind them. Each time he did, it got easier. He wasn't being rude. He was protecting his space. And slowly, Moo's friends began to respect that little sign and the little calf behind it. Moo started writing in a tiny notebook just for himself. He called it the Book of Brave No's. Each page had a moment where he stood up for his needs. "No, I need rest. No, I already have plans." The more he wrote, the more proud he felt. Each no wasn't a wall, it was a window to his truest self. Just because Moo learned to say no didn't mean he stopped saying yes. But now, his yes came from joy, not guilt. He offered help when he truly wanted to. And when he said yes, his smile was real and stayed. That little difference, it changed everything. Moo's days started to feel different. He wasn't always exhausted anymore. He had more time to sing, nap, and daydream by the window. The other animals noticed Moo seems happier lately, they whispered. He didn't say much, but his calm smile said it all. One afternoon, a quiet friend came to Moo. "Is it hard for you to say no?" they asked. Moo paused. "It used to be," he said, "but I'm learning that no doesn't mean I love you less." The friend nodded. Will you help me learn too? Moo smiled. Yes, that kind of yes. I'd love to say. Moo started a tiny workshop called Kind Boundaries. He drew posters. No is a full sentence. He sang songs about saying yes from the heart, not from fear. More and more friends joined each week, not just to learn how to say no, but to learn how to love themselves a little more. One night, Moo looked in the mirror. I'm proud of you, he whispered. He remembered all the times he felt invisible, lost in the noise of people pleasing. Now, he saw someone brave enough to choose honesty over approval. The mirror didn't reflect perfection. It reflected someone learning, and that was enough. At school, Moo created a wall of brave. Anyone could add a sticky note about a time they said no with love. Each day, more colors filled the board, tiny stories of courage. One note read, I said no to skipping rest time. Another, I told my cousin I needed space. Together, they built a rainbow of boundaries, beautiful and brave. Moo found an old drawing he made, a younger version of himself smiling nervously. He wrote a note on the back. Dear past Moo, it's okay to protect your heart. The younger Moo didn't know yet, but he would grow into someone who spoke up, stood tall, and felt proud of his voice. The note ended simply. You did it. Moo created a playlist called Strong and Soft. Every song reminded him that kindness didn't mean losing himself. He danced around his room, twirling in his big purple headphones. Music helped him remember. He wasn't just someone who gave. He was someone who mattered too. Moo once said no and immediately felt bad. A tiny voice inside whispered, was that selfish? He almost ran back to say yes, but he paused. He placed his hoof on his chest and whispered, I am allowed to choose me. And with that choice, the guilt faded like morning mist. Moo discovered a powerful word, maybe. When unsure, he didn't have to rush into yes or no. Maybe gave him space to think, breathe, and ask what he wanted. It wasn't hesitation, it was honesty in progress. And sometimes, maybe led him to a no that felt right, or a yes that came from truth. Saying no wasn't always easy, but Moo learned something new. He didn't have to answer right away. He could pause, take a breath, listen inside. That pause became his superpower. A moment to check in with himself before giving anything away. And sometimes, silence spoke louder than the rush to please. One day, Moo was invited to help plan a party. He loved parties, but he felt tired that week. So he said, I can't help this time, but I hope it's amazing. Later, a big storm rolled in. Moo stayed safe at home, curled up with Coco, and he realized saying no sometimes protected more than just his energy. Every morning, Moo asked himself one question. Do I have enough to give today? Some days, the answer was yes and he gave freely. Other days, it was no and he gave himself grace. The question wasn't about others. It was about honoring what was true inside. And the more he asked, the more honest his life became. The more Moo protected his boundaries, the more beauty grew in his life. He had time to draw silly comics, nap in sunbeams, and sing from his heart. His garden of self-care blossomed quietly but clearly, and others noticed, not because Moo shouted, but because he glowed. Moo didn't become famous. He didn't speak on stages or write a book, but he changed his world one honest no at a time. His calm became contagious. His choices gave others permission to pause, and one by one, his little herd grew bolder. Because one tiny calf had dared to believe he mattered. If Moo could tell you one thing, it would be this. You are allowed to take care of yourself. You are allowed to pause, to breathe, to say no when something doesn't feel right. Not because you don't care, but because you do. You matter too. So go ahead, practice your no, and let it lead you to the life you truly deserve. Even after all his growth, Moo had moments where he slept. He said yes out of habit, then felt that old tired feeling return. But instead of spiraling, he noticed. He paused, and he said, next time, I'll try again. Because learning to say no isn't perfect. It's a practice. Moo drew a big circle in chalk and stood inside. This is my yes space, he said. Only things that made him feel good belonged inside the circle. When others tried to pull him out, Moo gently stayed in place. He didn't explain. He just smiled and said, I'm staying here today. Sometimes Moo wanted to help but couldn't do it right away. So he said, not now but maybe next time. It wasn't rejection. It was real. And it gave both him and his friends something powerful. Honest timing. No didn't end the story. It just added space for a better one. TinyMoo wasn't alone anymore. Others began to model what he lived, speaking clearly, protecting their peace, choosing joy over people-pleasing. The little herd was changing, one voice at a time. And Moo, he watched with a full heart, knowing it had started with just one tiny word. At the end of a long day, Moo took a deep breath, not because he was tired from saying yes, but because he was proud of every no that honored his needs. He had more energy, more music, more moments that were truly his, and with that one breath, Moo felt completely, totally, joyfully free. One morning, a new calf arrived, shy, soft-spoken, always saying yes. TinyMoo saw himself in those wide, nervous eyes. He walked over and offered a seat, then whispered, You don't have to say yes to be kind. The new calf blinked and smiled like someone who'd just been given permission to breathe. It had come full circle. The last word Moo says in this story isn't yes. It's a clear, kind, unshaken no. As someone asks him to stay late and help, even when he's clearly tired, he smiles and says, I need rest tonight. Maybe another time. Then turns, hums his favorite tune, and walks home beneath a sky full of quiet stars. Like, subscribe, and Moo with me next time.